Hello, and thank you so much for joining me. I am your host, Sarah, and welcome to Murder Chronicles. So today, we delve deep into yet another gripping episode about a Kenyan police officer who ensured that she lured all of her exes and then killing them one by one. If you would like to know what finally happened to Corporal Caroline Kangogo, then don't go away and let's have a look.
Nakuru Town, 8:40 hours, Monday morning, 2021. A police officer, namely Sergeant Joseph Ologe, is reporting to work in the morning. At this time, he was staying at Kasarani Police Estate in Nakuru Town. On his way, he notices a vehicle just near the quarters. It has a broken window and the engine is still running. It is a KBV 735U. He recognized it since it belongs to one of his workmates at the Central Police Station in Nakuru. And the owner is Constable John Ongweno. Suddenly, some curiosity arises and he decides to peep through the broken window. Inside, the constable is lying on the driver's seat. There is blood oozing from his nostrils. The sergeant quickly calls for help since this is now an emergency situation. The officers who responded to the emergency call came quickly, only to discover that Constable John Ongweno had been shot and already dead. Upon examining the crime scene, the officers discover a 9mm caliber cartridge, a metal bar, and a stone. The clued weapons must have been used to smash down the window before the victim was shot to death. Upon further examination, they discovered that a Cisco pistol belonging to the constable was missing. Though he still had the holster with him, conclusion was the perpetrator had fled with the weapon. Additionally, they would still discover a cell phone inside the constable's vehicle. Upon further digging into the cell phone data, they realized it belongs to a fellow officer, namely Corporal Caroline Kangogo. She was a colleague to John Ongweno. A few people around the station made voluntary statements confirming that Caroline Kangogo and John Ongweno were involved in a romantic relationship. Police officers wished to confirm such claims and they went to search through in Caroline's house. There, they found John Ongweno's personal belongings, clothes included, but for Caroline, she had vanished in the thin air. People further added to the statement, confirming that the two had been spotted at an entertainment spot in Nakuru just last night. July 6, 2021, on a Tuesday, an OCPD at Mogera Police Station receives a call. There are claims that another man has been found dead in a hotel room. He was at Dedamax Hotel in Roiro. He had been shot on the head, a bullet going through from his right ear to the left one and had busted his head open. The owner to the hotel, Peter Mugeshi, had made the call. Upon an investigation by the police, the man would be identified as Peter Njiro Ndwega, a 32-year-old man who came from Embu and he was a businessman. He had booked a room number 107 at around 16:22 hours, that is Monday evening. He was accompanied by a lady. Upon observing the CCTV footage, a woman in a yellow hoodie had accompanied Mr. Peter Njero. It was believed that the woman was Caroline. Moments later, at around midnight, the same woman was captured, leaving the hotel room, but this time she was alone. The receptionist had told the police that Caroline Kangogo had told her that she had gone out to buy some toothpaste and that she was coming back, but she never returned. In Peter's pockets, the police found a receipt payment worth 3,020 Kenyan shillings made to Jogoo Kimakia Lodge in Thika. The bill had been paid using Caroline's credit card. The payment had been made at around 15:30 hours. That is 7 hours after the body of Constable John Ongweno was found back in Nakuru. Also, a few minutes before Mr. Peter Ndwiga and Caroline would check with the hotel room at Dedamax in Ruiru. At Kimakia Lodge in Thika, employees confirmed that Caroline had eaten lunch at the facility at around 3:30 hours, confirming what the receipt indicated. Hopefully, at this time you are still following the case. This is an indication that immediately after killing Constable Ongweno in the morning hours, Caroline immediately traveled to Thika, an approximately 4 hours drive, where she met Mr. Peter Njero. They had lunch at around 3:30 hours, checked with the hotel room at around 4:30 hours, before finally killing him at midnight. Peter Njero's body will now be discovered on Tuesday morning at the hotel room. That is when the police were involved in the matter. At this point, the DCI declared a nationwide hunt for Caroline Kangogo. She was a tactful woman with great combat knowledge and was described as a threat to the public. When these incidences were translated by detectives, they stated that Caroline was on a manhunt to eliminate her current and former lovers, aka exes. The public was alerted to be vigilant, especially men, since it indicated that she was on a killing mission. Detectives had further stated that Caroline was smart since she had been involved in every aspect of hunting perpetrators, and she was aware of all the tactics the police would apply, which gave her an advantage for easier escape. Caroline was a highly skilled sniper. They further stated that the officers who were hunting her down exercised a lot of caution, since Caroline was highly skilled. She spent that whole week escaping the police despite the traps they set up for her. Caroline almost got away in the thin air like Jack the Ripper. She dominated the news headlines, and it trended on social media platforms. They had set a trap for her at Iten area, believing that she was on a mission to kill another man there, a doctor who was believed to be her ex-lover also, but somehow they missed her. Caroline's case became quite a debate on social media, especially Twitter, where many people, even the prominent ones, dropped their opinion on the matter. One famous Mike Sonko, the Nairobi County Governor by then, was among them. He tweeted saying, "Senior Councillor John Haminwa, who is also a lawyer, should seek for bail pending arrest for Caroline Kangogo." He added that Caroline should not be treated as a criminal at all. This was a sign that people had already started to get a feeling like something was fishy about the occurrences. He assumed that there was some truth covered in the dark.
Monday, 13th July 2021. The police are in the 8th day, still searching for Caroline. The Law Society of Kenya chipped into the matter. The movement enlisted lawyer John Haminwa to represent Caroline in court and to bargain for her release on bond pending arrest. There were claims that Caroline was being set up by some rogue officers and that there was a mastermind behind the killings. John Haminwa requested Caroline from wherever she was to surrender the weapon that she had to any nearest police station, and at the same time assured her safety. Back at home, Caroline's father is urging her to surrender herself to the authorities. However, when it came to the social media family, it seemed like Caroline had already built herself a name among the female population. They fueled her with comments, encouraging her to continue the good work in quotes. Some of these comments read, "Mwanamke bomba," meaning iron woman, "Kiongozi," meaning our leader. They also showered her with applause and cheers, asking her to remain hidden as she continued with the good work of exterminating her exes. They simply worshipped her. Caroline was a single mom of two and had been married to Police Commissioner Richard Kipkurui Ngeno, and they had two beautiful children. But at the time of these killings, the two had already separated but were co-parenting. Caroline would later reveal that she had intended to kill her baby daddy, but she felt sorry for her children, and that is why she had spared his life. The last time Caroline was seen alive was at Iten. She was still dressed in the same yellow hoodie she wore at Thika. Police had laid plans to capture her from there, but they did not manage. She escaped them, but not the jaws of death. A few hours later, her parents called the police. They had found her dead at their home bathroom. Later, Rift Valley Police Commissioner George Natembea confirms her body.
Mama yake mzazi alipokuwa anaenda kuosha bathroom akapata mwili akawa amepiga risasi.
She had taken her own life by a self-inflicted gunshot to the head at Elgeyo Marakwet. Caroline had used the same Siska pistol belonging to Constable John Ongweno. Would you like to know who Caroline was? I believe you do. Caroline Jemutai Kangogo was born on January 10, 1987 in Elgeyo Marakwet County. Her father is Barnabas Koriu and the mother is Leah Kangogo. She was their first-born daughter. She studied at Nyawa boarding school and was a bright kid. She joined St. Francis Secondary School and finally St. Alphonsus Mutai Girls Secondary School, where she managed a C in her Kenya Certificate of Secondary Education. Between 2008 and 2009, she joined the Kenya Police Training in Kiganjo. She managed to attain a high profile due to her expertise and smartness. She was later enlisted with the National Police Service and was promoted from a rank of constable to a corporal in January 2021. She had obtained a first class in shooting range qualifications. In short, she was an outstanding sniper. Caroline had served in other areas of Kenya, including Mombasa and Kaloleni, before she was posted to Nakuru Central Police Station. Experts raised questions in the suicide theory in the death of fugitive cop Caroline Jemutai Kangogo. A forensic expert attached to DCI stated that several inconsistencies emerged on the theory, claiming that there was a possibility of the officer killed elsewhere and her body dragged to the bathroom.
Ordinarily, when you've committed suicide, we expect that there will be some body emotions and mechanical, involuntary action, physical action. So you would expect probably, you are kicking your last kicks, your legs will not be both together, as we've seen in that photo.
But he could not explain how there were no drag marks on the compound, or why nobody had heard the commotions of someone or a group of people delivering a body to the compound in a usually quiet village.
She was seated with her legs crossed. That's a bit odd. When people are keen and intent on committing suicide, many things don't matter. They're just intent on the act itself.
The officer, however, questioned the peaceful position which Kangogo's body was found.
She had worn shoes that had mud, And you expect that she should have walked in, and by the time she was taking the posture, which is basically sitting down and leaning back, there would be a few steps.
Her head was covered with a cloth. Was it done after the fact or before the fact? We do not see any splattering of blood or brain material on the wall. What the detectives will be looking at also is they are going to do what you call a gunshot residue test on the hand, especially the hand where the gun was, but also on the other hand, just to rule out, any stage managing of the scene.
Death is painful, and there is no way the woman's body would be so composed, seated like she died peacefully, holding a gun in her hand and the other hand in her pockets, he questioned. In the morning incident, it is alleged that nobody heard a gunshot at the neighborhood or homestead. He argued that a Siska gun was way too powerful, and there was no way Caroline could have shot herself in her parents' compound without them hearing the noise. She was found dead only 40 meters away from her parents' living room. Pictures shared on social media platforms showed the deceased body with crossed legs, in muddy shoes, at a less disturbed scene. As for the hand holding the gun, the expert disputed, saying that since the scene was just a small room, she would have hit the wall and fallen. There is no way the gun would remain in her hand. It would fall down because of the force involved in the shooting. Further, the detective noted that the scene would have blood spattered all over since she allegedly shot herself on the chin, but at the scene, blood was seen concentrated in a corner and some traces on the floor. According to the detective, a cartridge cannot move further than 3 meters from where it has been lodged, meaning that a spent cartridge would be found at the scene. In this case, the deceased shot herself on the chin, but it is not clear where the exit was. He also questioned how the fugitive officer would have sneaked into her home that was put on surveillance when her manhunt was started. He also noted that the muddy shoes should also be investigated to determine whether she walked home or had been killed elsewhere. Was it raining and muddy along her home? And if so, is the mud on the shoes the same as that of her home area? He added that it was mysterious how a wanted person was still wearing the same clothes that she had been captured within the CCTV footage in Juja, where she allegedly killed her second victim. The officer also observed that the body was not immediately covered after its discovery. Why was the body carried without having it even covered? Leaving the body open for so long could lead to higher risk of tampering with evidence. Another expert by the name George Musamali, a security consultant and a former GSU, advised that the family should invest in private investigators and not only rely on police findings. Musamali said the expert should be left to examine the scene and come out with the right information. He said an inquest should also be launched to have the doubts, which could be valid, eliminated or answered. Taking pictures and sharing will not tell the story, he argued further. Everyone had their own opinion, and that is why it was important to bring a forensic pathologist who had specialized on gunshot wounds at the crime scene and not just at the morgue. A ballistic expert should also be presented at the scene when it is being documented. Though the police denied the claims that Caroline had left some suicide notes, video images seeped into the social media and they claimed to be her suicide notes. She had left them in form of drafted messages in a small non-Android cell phone. In these messages, she expressed her deepest apologies for her action and requested for forgiveness. Also, she attributed to all the challenges, the abuse and manipulation her ex-husband had taken her through. Her ex-husband had mentally, emotionally, and physically abused her for long. She also associated her bitterness to the fact that her father had disowned her after her marriage, and that is why it failed. Caroline never expressed the reason as to why she had killed Constable John Ongweno, but she referred to him as the love of her life. She was wishing to see him soon. When it comes to her second victim, Peter Njerundwiga, Caroline was so unapologetic about it. The man had initially conned her 1.5 million Kenya shillings, where 300,000 out of the 1.5 million she had borrowed from her father, which was his retirement benefit. Peter was rude to her, where he arrogantly informed her that he was not going to pay back the money. He had even bought himself a new Pro Box. He deserved his fate. Caroline had requested for her body to be cremated immediately, and if not, she wanted to be buried in a white wedding gown, something her ex-husband never gave her. On July 29, 2021, she was laid to rest in a low-key burial. She was not honored like a police officer following the circumstances of her death and actions before that. In a normal circumstance, she was to receive police officer gunfire salutes, 21 of them. Also, police officers would have attended the burial in uniforms. She received none of these. But despite her last actions and deeds, Caroline was eulogized as a good person, a calm and friendly lady, and many were still shocked by the circumstances which led to her death.
Hii maneno ya Chemutai kujiua imetupata kwa mshangao. Tumestuka kama familia kwa sababu tulikuwa tumesema juzi aserende ili tujue kiini cha yale maneno aliyowafanya.
Though her parents had been advised to push for further investigation into the matter using private individuals rather than relying on police findings and conclusion, they decided to leave the past behind and were content with how the case was finalized. They wanted to work on their healing journey. Caroline's wish was honored. She was buried in a white wedding gown. May her soul rest in peace.